Good stuff.
Yeah.
Take
Good
care.
morning.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Brilliant. Okay, so now we have the next round of speakers. So we're going to start off with Michael Earley, BIM Manager, DEA, Dublin Airport Authority, Chair of the RAI BIM Committee. So Michael, if you'd like to go ahead, that's brilliant.
Yeah, you can see my presentation there, hopefully. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Earley. I'm BIM Manager at DAA. DAA look after Dublin and Cork airports. I've been there for 2 years. I'm a member of the DAA Digital Transformation Team. Basically, it's a group of 6 individuals that look after digital at the airport. I'm also chair of the RI BIM subcommittee, and my background is computer science and also architectural technology, and I've been working with BIM since generally 2012, but working with other systems prior to that. Okay, so the topic of my presentation will be on 19650 series. This is the standard we're now utilizing in the airport, and so information management basically is our ISO 19650 is a process for managing information for buildings and also for civil engineering works, including BIM. So what I'm going to go through today is basically what I would understand as being the CapEx process and lead into the OpEx process. Capital expenditure is anything to do with producing a building or a bridge or a road or a runway. Operations is to do with operating expenditure, basically. It's when we get the asset, what we do every day to maintain that asset and make sure it runs well. Okay, so what's new in 19650? So we've gone through the standards, and these are just a couple of the points that I just want to bring to the fore about the differences between 19650 and what was the standard before, which is PAS 1192. So some of the big differences is, for me, is it's not just about 3D models, it's actually about information management in the wider context. And I think that's a difficult one to grasp at first, because I think generally BIM is seen as being all about models, but it's actually about all the information that's used in the generation of design and construction and operation of buildings. So the appointing party, the major changes I see is that we need to be much better about understanding the purpose about why we need information. So not just asking for information because some document says we should have it or because we think we should have it. We need to really dig into why we need it. And we also need to understand the level of information need. So what that really means is, now that you understand why you need the information, what's your understanding of the detail of the information you need? You may not know all the information that you actually need, but you need to either describe it or prescribe what you need. So that's really important. So 19650 is a process, and that's what the 19650 sets it out as. There's 8 mandatory sub-processes, and then within those, then there's 40 activities. So those are 40 things you must do, and all of them are mandatory, none of them are optional, and the first 12 activities are the responsibility of the appointing party. So unless, basically, the lesson here, I suppose, is unless the client actually does the first 12 activities under 19650, it's very difficult to do the rest. So another important point in 19650 is no information manager. The concept is there's an information management function. So I think that's probably a good idea in the sense that what it does is it puts the responsibility on the appointing party or the client, and also on the lead appointed party, the actual company that you're appointing, to basically undertake all these tasks. They can have an information manager or a BIM manager or whatever to actually do that. All that matters is that they actually get done. So overall, the appointing party and the lead appointing party have significant responsibility on making sure that everything is done. Okay, this is just I suppose just a slide just to show you just quickly that it's not that complicated. If anyone hasn't really looked at the standard, section 5, which is the information management process, that's really the process. There's a number of sub-processes, there's 8 of those. That's 5.1, which is the information management process, that's assessment on need. That's very much, the first one is very much client driven. And then there's these activities. And then there's recommended or optional, basically, parts to that. So I suppose just explain what that is, because that's come up with us as part of small businesses, I suppose. See this as being very onerous actually to implement, but actually, if you do nothing else, look at the first section of it and then consider the parts that say shall consider in the standard. Okay, just to give you an overall view of the actual standard itself, how it's divided up. So as I said, there's eight main sub-processes here, and then there's a number then of activities. So basically, the very first one, first 8 are client, are appointing party driven. Next 4 are appointing party driven as well. Tender response then is a combination of it's the actual lead appointed party. So actually, the companies that are bidding on that. So it goes right through. So you can see here, the first 12 are actually client driven. So that's really important to understand. So that's all the appointing party. So the appointing party, that concept is the actual organization who's appointing the actual an architect or appointing a contractor. That's what the appointing party is. So these are terms you're going to have to get used to. There's 3 main ones: appointing party, lead appointed party, and appointed party. So appointing parties, top of the heap. The lead appointed parties then have a contractual obligation to the appointed party. And then you've got appointed parties below that. So they're basically then appointed by the lead appointed party, or maybe working in as a joint venture in conjunction with them. So all that is considered the project team. Each of those lead appointed parties on their team are considered the delivery team. And then the team at the, if you want to call it, the bottom. So this could be a client, this could be here a contractor. Contractor could be engaging with an architect, a structural engineer, a quantity surveyor, maybe as part of a design and build project. That's considered the task team down here. So this group here is delivery team, task team at the bottom. The whole overall thing is called the project team. So these are concepts you need to kind of get used to. That's all those arrows represent what's called information exchanges. So there's a contractual obligation on everyone here to provide information to the next one up, to provide information to the client. That's all the contractual obligations. As we all know, we all engage in coordination with companies we don't have contractual relationships with, and that happens a lot. But ultimately, this route here is the actual route to fulfilling a contractual relationship and essentially getting paid. So just looking at the documents, there's a list of documents that I would consider strategic at high level. So strategic at the top, high level information requirements in the middle, and then documents we use for information for going to tender. So strategic is an OIR, or Organization Information Requirements. In a nutshell, that sets out basically what the business needs to get on and do its business. So those requirements will feed into, or should feed into, what goes out to tender. So if you have a requirement to categorize all capital costs by a certain classification, might be NRM or ARM or something like that, and you want to classify everything in a certain way, and that's a business requirement, that needs to get fed down into the exchange information requirements.
Just
so how's that
1 minute
done?
warning there, Michael.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly go through this. So project information standard, then, this is a key document that we are producing. This sets out basically what information is required. So just give an example, that set out the level of information, level of detail, what a coordinate system is, and everything else. That's a key document we push out with every project. And what we do then is we reference sections of that in our exchange information requirements. We also have a project information production methods and procedures. That's the how. So the key thing is there's how do we see coordination and clash avoidance working? How does the common data environment work? How does the handover information work? So that's a document we're producing as a client to say how we think works. If we don't know how it works, we ask the actual supply chain to come up with their review of that. This is just something I'm kind of doing, I suppose. Part of my job is basically going through requirements that are generally in plain English. If I look at any of our briefing documents, there's hundreds of requirements. I'll go through each of those sort of sections in there and say, what does this mean? The contractor shall submit a completed asset register. Asset register basically is an information requirement. Contractor is a responsibility. Submit is the process. So you have to start going through the brief and start to figure out what it means in terms of actually information. Because the problem that we have at the moment is, and as mentioned earlier, it's all great doing these English text documents. It's very hard to verify that they meet requirements, and that's a big challenge. So just a few recommendations then at the end. So from a client perspective, clients need to get very familiar with the activities in the ISO 19650 standard, particularly the first 12, because that's where it starts. You need to engage with asset managers, finance, procurement, project managers, whoever's key stakeholders, whoever uses that information essentially, and develop and document those processes. For the lead appointing party, I'd say capability, and the same with the appointed party, capability is really important. You've got to understand what it takes to do that job. What's the gaps between what you can do and what the job is? Do you need to outsource some of that information? Who do you need to communicate with? You definitely need to communicate with anyone you're subcontracting to make sure they have the capability as well, and seek clarification as well where you don't know what's been asked for. So just one last thing I just want to note is we're updating, this is part of my chair of the RI BIM committee. We're doing an updated BIM pack, just doing the final crossing I's and dotting T's. The new version will align with 19650. We're doing two separate guidances then for small and medium-sized enterprises. And the last document then, we're just going through that at the moment. That's to do with the national annex, which essentially is file naming and revision control. There's an Irish version of that, and we're doing our own sort of guidance to that. So thank you everyone for attending, and thanks Ralph and everyone who organised this event. It's really exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Brilliant. That was a really interesting presentation. Thanks very much. Next up, we have Robert Moore, Information Manager, Grange Government Development Agency. So Robert, if you'd like to share your presentation, perfect. And if you just unmute.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? My name is Robert Moore, and I'm going to be doing a presentation about information quality, looking at correct information for decision making. So just a bit about me. I'm the information manager using BIM for Grange Government Development Agency at the Grange Government City Campus. I have been in Grange Government since 2016, but I have around 25 years experience producing information. Also, I do some committee work as well, and co-authored a technical report regarding EIR's BEP guidelines. Just a bit about Grange Government. Grange Government is a piece of city on the northwest part of Dublin. It consists of an education and healthcare campus and 30 hectares of parkland. Just to give you an idea where it actually is in relation to the city. Our mission is to make Grange Government a world-class development. Our vision is to be recognised as recognised for community urban regeneration, and our values are to be achieved through information management. I always look at going back to basics. I think it's very important that people actually get the basics right. If you get the basics right, it means that you improve everything that you're doing, work that you're doing. And as a client, it's very frustrating when we have a disruption, when a fault comes and it arrives at us. It means that there has been a failing in the supply chain to make sure that the information is right. Also, as well as that, as a client, we usually go through a huge amount of effort to make sure that we get this information. We feel that it's everybody's responsibility to work on quality and make sure things are right. It's the full organisation's responsibility to do this. And also looking at this is not a sprint. It's a slow and steady race that gets there. There needs to be a quality consistency and quality culture throughout the production of information. And it's not a case of that there's one final check before it goes out. We also find that this one final check can also be the first thing that's squeezed when program gets a bit stretched and it's coming to the deadlines. And we're passionate about getting things right, and we're passionate about being the best. And we would hope that that you're passionate about this too. So to look at where it's everywhere, it's very important for us that all our buildings are produced with quality information for decision making. We rely on this information for future projects, that we can go back and look at previous information and reuse that information. We also work with a lot of different people in it. Different companies deliver different projects, so it means that all the information must be consistent to our information standard. Always, quality should not be an act, it should be a habit. People should always think about what they're doing and have a quality approach to it. And quality means doing the right thing when nobody is looking as well. It means that it's not just about seeming to be doing it right, you must be always doing it right. Who must do this? It's people. It's people that rely on this. It's people, it's us as the client. We need to make sure that we make it understandable what quality we want. It's the design teams and the delivery teams and our supply chain that must produce this, but actually it falls down to everybody in them teams needs to have a quality approach, and that should be it should be just a culture within the organizations, that quality down to the administrator and everybody. Whose job is quality anyway? And I suppose this is something that I find is everybody thinks it's somebody else's job, but nobody's really doing it, and anybody could have done it. And I think that sometimes is the problem, that there's not just that focus on that, it's everybody's job to do this, and it must be done like that. Just quality, why or what? Quality information for decision making. It's very important that that we have quality information for decision making, and this is always through the information process and the standards. It has always talked about this. It has always talked about review, check, and approve, and review and authorize. I sometimes find when we get a new project in, people say, well, we set up the common data environment, and say, well, so you have all your methods and procedures and your information production methods and procedures ready to go, but no, what they mean is they've set up 4 folders in a file share system. But to have a common data environment, there must be then processes around for production of information and ensuring of quality. They're also in ISO 19650 Part 2 as well. It talks about quality assurance and quality checking. It goes through what needs to be done. Like, as a client, really, we look at the standard as 3 things: specify what we want, ensure the right team produces that information, is contracted to produce it, and then finally ensure they produce it correctly and do what we want. So how apply a managed process is the best way to achieve quality, we feel. And I suppose there's nothing really new about this. It's always been there from originally back, I suppose 96 is where this title block is for, and this is a CAD manual, and it has procedures about checking off drawings and the check that's done. I suppose from working in the CAD world, every office I've worked in had a CAD manual, but that accompanying BIM manual from hasn't really, I don't see it happening as the CAD manual from the historic CAD manual hasn't progressed into BIM manuals for people.
Robert, so, we've 2 minutes. If you can we've 2 minutes left. Yeah. Okay.
What it is, you need competent people, which is showed for in the standard in ISO 19650. You also need guidance, standards and guidance for people to check their work, which is also included in the ISO. It talks about acceptance criteria, which is project information standards and information production methods and procedures and use and reference materials. And then so also time. It's very important that time is allowed for it. The program should allow time for this to be done. So how does it look within the GDA? We started to use checklists to make sure people checked that things were done. We also set up our acceptance criteria. It was very important to get our acceptance criteria. And then we did information, project information standards about naming, about quality, and then how our title blocks, exactly how they should look. We also looked at working on that. We feel that the best way to do production methods and procedures was to do process workflows. So we're starting to do process workflows for what we do. So just what does this extra value achieve by using quality systems? It gives people processes and procedures to do their work. It reduces errors, which frustrates people. It saves time and money by reducing workload for rework for people, and it reduces people's stress when they can rely on a robust quality system. So, just as a final thought, quality starts with people, and then it's all people's job to ensure quality happens. It's everybody's job to make sure that happens. ISO 19650 has a path for people to follow to give this quality, and then finally, quality work makes happy people. And just the last thoughts is we always feel culture is the most important to us. Culture beats technology, and then just we feel that's my last slide.
Brilliant, Robert. No, that looked really interesting presentation. It's great to see what Grange Government is doing around information management. So no, thanks very much. And so we'll go on to the next speaker, Peter McDonnell, Estate Project and Information Manager at Dublin City University. And then we'll close with questions and answers at the end of it. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments box. Okay, Peter. You're just on mute there, Peter. If you could just unmute your mic. And then,
there you go now. I think you can hear me now, yeah?
Yeah, if you want to share your presentation.
Just going to try and share this here. No, hold on a second.
No problem.
Does the previous presenter need to stop sharing, or is it?
Yeah, if you just want to go to stop sharing, Rob, perfect.
No, he doesn't have to. Just has to share.
You can start it. Go ahead there, Peter.
Okay. Okay, can you see that there?
Yes, you just want to click presenter mode.
Yes.
How's that now?
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, everybody, thanks for the invitation to the event. It's really exciting to be here. Thanks to Ralph and his team, Emma, Audrey, Pat, everybody involved, and also thanks for the Being Hero Award. I haven't been able to get the lanyard to put the medal around my neck for the event, but I'll try for the next one. So a little bit about myself. I'm a projects and information manager with Dublin City University. I'm a registered architectural technologist. I'm currently employed by DCU, as I've said, and I look after the delivery of capital projects in support of the university's strategic plan. I've been interested in building information model and other digital technologies, and I've undertaken and completed an MSc, Master of Science in Construction Informatics with TU Dublin. The title of my research was the adoption of building information modelling through the creation of a partnership to improve teaching methods and administrative support services within higher education institute in Ireland. So really, for me, I see that the potential in terms of what we do in our estates functions, and also what we can offer students, staff and students within the academic area of the university to support their functions, to give them real life information, access to different assets, models, all of that kind of thing. It was previously a little bit fractured. Nobody knew what anybody was doing, but we're starting to open up those channels, which is really exciting. So a little bit about the Estates Office. What do we do? Well, everything, certainly for the last 18 months. It's been a little bit crazy, but in essence, we undertake capital developments, so that's project delivery, maintenance, other functions such as security, general services, cleaning, health and safety. And this is all over 3 academic campuses with over 80 plus buildings to manage, with over 17,000 students. So we're growing all the time, and information management is becoming more and more important to us in order to underpin all of those functions. So a little bit about DCU and their strategic plan. Their strategic plan was issued in 2017. It's currently under review. Some exciting elements within there, as well as some specific strategic goals in terms of what we want to do with sustainability and digital campus to digitally connect people, staff and students. We also have different elements in terms of energy, water, CO2 emissions, transportation, operational resilience, and different things that we want to underpin, I suppose, information management to underpin to help the university to achieve those goals. So all I wanted to do today was really try and just keep it simple, just understanding information management and different standards that are out there. We have ISO, we currently use ISO 50001 for our energy management, and we're looking at different standards in terms of information management. So ISO 19650, what does it help us do? Well, we have various different functions, and we, among the things that we think it can help us with is improve our asset delivery and management. It can improve the consistency of, and very importantly, the trust in the information or the structured data that we have. It can improve the quality and therefore the usefulness of information. And also it can mitigate against the risk of using poor information, which can lead to problems with costs, timelines, health and safety risks, everything that goes with having poor information. So avoiding that information chaos. As I've already said, standards can support and improve estate functions, that both capital expenditure functions and operational expenditure, and also help deliver asset information models for full lifestyle use. And just on the right hand side of the current slide, I have some different asset information uses. So this is where we see information, structured data, good, useful, dependable information can be used. So what's the value of good information? So it's trust in the source of the data, that's to support our estate's functions. Better or informed decision making, so be less reactionary, less short-term thinking, understanding what we need, why we need it, and when we need it. We can increase productivity and therefore efficiencies, improved efficiencies. As previously stated, we can reduce costs, and we can also support sustainability and address climate change. DCU has won various awards in the area of sustainability and reducing our energy costs. We have some targets that have been set by government and the EU, which we're managing to meet and beat at the moment, and we want to be able to continue to do that. So what are the challenges that currently exist? Well, some of the challenges that we have are multiple information sources, and these are legacy systems and processes where there were no standards used in terms of collating information and putting data together. And if any standards were used, they are in multiple systems, so siloed systems across the university. So just to give you a little bit of information on the bottom and onto the right hand side, I've just listed some of the different systems. So we have a safety and security system called Safe Zone. We have a maintenance help desk. We have a space management system. We've got building management systems. We've got all the CAD drawings that you can think of, which I'm sure most people that are here today will understand. And all that information is useful. It's not a dead end information, but it's looking at that information and seeing how we can bring it together and make it become more useful, make it become more productive, make it more accessible to everybody. And also the last item on the list, in terms of a common data environment, we don't currently have one within DCU. So what we do is we have a local server, or we just use Google Drive. And what we're trying to do on smaller projects is set up project teams so that they all have a space within which they can work. And until we actually have a fully functioning CDE, this is the best solution that we can come up with.
Brilliant. And just to touch, Peter, we're just running 2 minutes there just to wrap up the presentation. I want to go into the questions then. So thanks.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. I'll be quick. So it's important for us, I suppose, to understand information management and standards. We, within the DCU Estates Office, we had a really good understanding of the PAS documents, the PAS standards and the BS 1192, etc. Now, I know that the 19650 has come from those standards, but I think it's important to understand the difference, and certainly in terms of terminology. So what we're doing at the moment is we're training staff and we're trying to upskill staff so that people understand the new ISO 19650 standards in particular. I'm talking in terms of project delivery. We also have a maintenance team who will be looking at ISO 19650 in terms of management of assets. We're looking at the resourcing the information management function. So I am not a dedicated information manager, I'm a project manager, and the information management role comes as a side to that. So in terms of delivering projects, that's what I'm responsible for. And also informing people on their roles and responsibilities. So similar to what Rob was saying earlier, you know, it's quality of information and informing people that the information that they produce, share, store, document, whatever it is potentially useful to somebody else and will support another function. So our next steps within DCU are to develop our OIR, to develop project information requirements, asset information requirements, and exchange information requirements. And we're currently working on, I suppose, bite-sized elements of this, I suppose, in terms of file naming and mapping our workflows and processes, which I think is a good foundation. It's a good basic level of understanding for people, because you can't come in and change something that somebody has been doing for, you know, their whole career in some cases, change it overnight. So it's that education. And I think we really just need to kind of keep it simple. We need to know what information we want, why we want it, and when we want it. We don't need other people to come in and tell us what we want, why we want it, and when we want it. We know that, and it's just about keeping it simple. And that's it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Peter. That was brilliant. It's great to see what all the work that's been done in DCU. So what we'll do now, in fairness, there's been a lot of questions posted, so we'll go straight into the panel discussion, and we can start, I suppose, with Peter, with yourself. So how important is asset information requirements to you as the client?
Yeah, to us as the client, it's essential. It really is important. It underpins everything we do. Explaining to people what we want, like I said in the presentation, when we want it and why we want it. I think that's key. It's to try, if we can set out those information requirements, we can avoid other people, whether it's a design consultant or a service provider or an external maintenance contractor, deciding for themselves what they think we want, and then we have to use that. So I think it's really key. It's really important.
Brilliant. Okay, and then we have a couple of questions then from Michael. So I'll just start off. So Michael, on ISO 19650, you've mentioned that the client must produce the 12 force steps. What happens when the clients are not performing some of the steps / points, and does the lead appointed party need to cover up those steps?
Okay, I'd say my first point, it will depend on the way the tender has been commissioned, but my first point would be to say that you seek clarification if there's missing information. That's the same way as if you got a brief and it wasn't clear on what needs to be done. You go back through whatever channels there are to seek clarification, and many of the sort of larger tenders are the ones that are go through EU procurement. There's a formal process for doing that, and generally that flags it with everyone else who's tendered, that there's a query in on that. So that would be my first piece of advice. Perhaps in some projects there might be an opportunity to actually provide some consultancy, maybe just to flag it and say, look, you've gone out to tender with something that's certainly short, and that you need to fill in some gaps, and maybe there's an opportunity to provide that advice. So I think those are the two routes. I think it's really, if you could start off, let's say if the client is just saying, I want BIM in accordance with 19650 standards and there's nothing more to it, you're starting off not really in a good footing. You need to establish the actual the playbook for how things are going to work out, because you just don't know what they want exactly. You don't know why they want it. You're going to be producing lots of information that's may not be, you know, some of it may be relevant, some may not be relevant. So I would say, yeah, definitely seek clarification. Be my first step.
Brilliant. Okay, and now, so Robert, this next one's for you. So what one thing can the supply chain do better / change to help you as the client?
We'd find that if they can produce better a strategy or approach to what they're going to do. So if they have a clear approach of how they're going to deliver information, like really when it comes down to it, if they have well worked out information production methods and procedures, would really help. We're looking at what is the best way to do them, because we need to do them ourselves, and we find that a process workflow is usually a very good way of communicating quite quickly to us as a client, to see that they have a deep understanding of what they're doing, and again that quality process is present in what they're doing as well.
Okay, very good, very good. And then another one for yourself, Michael. So I suppose it's with the RAI. Do we know when the RAI are likely to issue the updated BIM package aligned to ISO 19650?
Yeah, it's a hot topic at the moment. Yeah, and I have the final documents, and I'm still going through the very final comments on that. So basically what we did is just give you a bit of back information on it. So we started doing the document. We engaged with a number of other professional bodies as well. We met with them just to see what their opinion on the BIM process was, and we tried to bring in that information as well into it. So I think in the next week I'm going to get the draft out, and what the plan is to do is to send that to each of the professional bodies, the educational institutions, some of the government agencies as well. And the reason we're doing that is we want them to moderate any comments that are coming back. I don't have any concern with the document going wider, provided that the comments are moderated through one organization or one individual that will get those comments back. So the plan is to get it out in the next week, and then to get the comments back by the end of November, and then to hopefully, depending on the number of comments we're getting, get the final version of that out by the end of the year. But definitely a draft will go out, and I think it's quite a good draft. But I would like comments from everyone, because I think this is a collaborative exercise, and we need everyone to be on the same page. So very shortly, it's coming.
Good, good.
Within days.
What's that?
Within days. It's within a week, right?
Brilliant, brilliant. No, look at it, sure, like that. Let's keep us posted, and if you could let
Yeah, will do.
That would be great. So then just an open question. So it was posted again. So for the architect, the primary benefits of BIM seem to be rendering and coordination. How do we improve maturity when promoting BIM benefits? So we include more about scheduling, cost, green credentials, and facilities management. So if there's anyone who wants to start off with this open question, I suppose, Peter, if you want to contribute.
Can you repeat the question there? Sorry.
For architects, the primary benefits of BIM seem to be rendering and coordination. How do we improve our maturity when promoting BIM benefits? So we include more about scheduling, cost, green credentials, and facilities management.
Well, it's a wide, I suppose, question. That comes down, I suppose, to the benefits for an architect, but architectural practice will understand what are the benefits of BIM to them. But if somebody is posing a question to me to say what are the benefits of BIM to a client, I would say just understanding that a client has different needs. Everybody has different needs. And if you're providing a service for a client, you really got to understand what information they require, why they require it, when they require that information, and ensure that you deliver that information as it's needed, when it's needed. So I think, BIM means a lot of different things to a lot of people. There's benefits, for everybody, but the benefits may differ. So it's really down to understanding what's good for you, and if you're working for a client, what's good for the client, and making sure that you can do that.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Like, I suppose definitely from I think the way the question was asked, it was asking for the benefits for the architect, but it's a good point that you made. Really, the benefits from a client, and then the architects would be really to meet those requirements of the client, so that they can include for it.
Yeah, I don't want to overemphasize the importance of information for a client, but I can speak for an architectural practice why BIM would be beneficial to them. It's relevant to them, and they need to decide that, such as why a client would do the same.
Brilliant.
Can I just add a point? Just goes back to my presentation. I think the key thing is and this relates to 19650 as well, that everyone needs to understand what their information requirements are. So a client has to state clearly what theirs are in a measurable way that they can verify. Architects need to do the same thing. So if a client sees sustainability or an assessment or verification of a building to meet sort of certain sustainability criteria, they need to specify what they want. So not just a general statement of we want the building to be sustainable. It must be something measurable. So it might be to say we want it to be, LEED Gold or whatever. But we need certain information to show that this has happened and that's verifiable. So they need to really get into the minutiae of exactly what they want. And to think, I suppose, the best way to think about it is, if I got information and it was presented to me on the table or on a board or in a PDF or whatever, or in a model, what would satisfy me that it's met my requirement? And I think that's the way we all need to start thinking. I think architects, all disciplines, including clients, need to start thinking that way.
Brilliant. And then look, I suppose the last question that we can finish up on. So how do you guys perceive a digital twin, and how do you think it's going to add value for others other than the O&M operational maintenance teams? So there's a question posted. So Robert, if you want to come in there.
Yeah. I suppose looking at the digital twin, I suppose really what we want is, a digital twin sounds very fancy really, but it comes down to simples really. What we want is accurate information that's searchable and reusable, and how we achieve that mightn't be using a fancy piece of software to get a digital twin. It could be as simple of just having that record there. So I think that's quite important. I suppose just to kind of come back to the last question is, we don't really use the word BIM. We try to use the word information management more. And sometimes when people are having a conversation or question, you don't know what they're talking about. The person could have been talking about a software or a model, but really what we focus on is the process. The process is what's key to us to get that quality information, and to look at that's reusable, because like the campus that we have, will be a good few years building it. We've been a good few years at it, and every building adjoins to another building, so we need to have that information and make it reusable.
Very good. And I suppose, Peter, is there anything you'd like to add at that point?
Yeah, I was going to say that, aside from information management, a digital twin can be used for all sorts of reasons. But one interesting thing, I suppose, is DCU's Autism Friendly Campus Initiative, where they're looking to take information from digital assets to inform students who may be on the autism spectrum of where they might be able to find, through the use of sensors, where they might be able to find a quiet space, but not only a quiet space or a sensory space that meets their needs. So they may be able to get information through an app like Safe Zone to tell them that there's a space that meets their needs that's coming from a digital asset in terms of sensors, lighting, sounds. And instead of walking 100 meters to the closest one, the best one to suit their needs might be 200 meters away. So just, whatever about asset delivery and management, digital twins have many other uses. And that's one, I suppose, initiative that between the Estates Office and Smart DCU are working on a research project. We're looking to try and unlock those functions just for the benefit of the student community. So I think that's interesting as well.
Really interesting point, very good. Really interesting, Peter. And I suppose, Michael, and to finish up with yourself, is there anything you'd like to add just around the whole perception of digital twins and how they can be used by other people rather than the facilities management teams in the life cycle of a building?
Okay, so I suppose I think it's possibly a slightly overused term. I know it's an easy concept that you have a sort of digital version of the actual real life world, but that information is not simply just in models, it's in many places. I think it's back to what I was mentioning earlier. I think we need to, as Peter has mentioned as well, we have customers, I suppose, or I have customers, and Peter and Robert have as well. They're the people who use the buildings. They're finance, there are certain functions or divisions within our company as a client who looks after buildings, and we need to satisfy their information requirements. So everything, or the collective, I would see the digital twin as being the collective of their information requirements, whatever that is. And that's back to my suppose top level document of organization information requirements. Whatever is set out there leading into the other requirements documents, that's my consideration. What's a digital twin? So it's information for purpose, with as much understanding as you can get of the detail of that information you require, and then you engage with design teams and contractors to give you the fill the gaps in the expertise. So
brilliant. No, look, thanks very much. Been really interesting points on presentations, both from, I suppose, Michael Earley, Robert Moore, and Peter McDonnell. So thanks very much for the presentations and posting the questions. We're actually going to go for a 30-minute break now from 11 o'clock, and we'll come back now at 11:30. So if everyone can, I suppose, just go grab a coffee, and then we'll meet back at 11:30. So thanks very much again for the presentations, the panelists for both the first session and the second session. Thanks again, Ralph, for the opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Killian.
Thanks.